Can I please doubly check those virtually, those are attending virtually, can actually see us and can hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Is that correct for Thames Valley? I know it was a moment ago. I'm just checking now. You all thumbs up. Thank you very much. Sorry?
No, it was.
Sorry, it's me. Okay, apologies. Can I also ask, please, that everybody attending is switch their phones off, mute or aircraft mode or whatever they like to do, but long as it's not going to start interrupting the proceedings. Thank you very much. I'd now like to confirm that this application we are hearing today is for Reloaded Nightclub, 7 Wharf Street, Newbury, Romeo Golf 147 Alpha November, correct? I am Councillor Phil Barnett and I'm supported this morning on the subcommittee by Councillor Stephanie Stevenson and on my right, Councillor Nigel Foote. Councillor Owen Jeffrey to the right of Nigel is the substitute. The legal advisor to the subcommittee is Beth Barco to my right, and Ben Ryan on my left will maintain the record of proceedings. Sadie Owen is the Zoom host to my rear. Please note that this meeting is also being webcast and recorded. Parties should therefore be mindful of this and bear this in mind in the terms of the information shared during this hearing. I will set out an order in which people will be asked to speak. If at the appropriate point anyone wishes to ask a question, please raise their hand. If we need to adjourn the meeting at any point, I will adjourn and all parties will be advised of the revised time and date of the meeting. If we hear the evacuation alarm this morning, we must leave the building immediately and proceed via the exit routes, which you can see on the various points of this room, as via a safe emergency exit route, which will be shown to us by the trained officers. Please follow any instructions given to them, and the assembly point is in the rear of the Dolphin Public House. Now, I know we've got different people here that perhaps are not conversant with Newbury. Does anybody not know where the Dolphin Public House is? Okay, thanks for, I presume that might be the case. Okay, the Dolphin Public House is actually, if you go out of the main entrance and turn to your left across the highway there, that is the rear entrance to the Dolphin Public House. Anyone requiring assistance should notify the officers. It was me previously, but I'm now totally mobile, luckily. And if a lockdown alarm sounds, we will need to remain seated awaiting further instructions. We will then adjourn the meeting until such a time it is safe to proceed. Does anybody have any questions relating to the way the meeting will be conducted? And I'm obviously looking for nodding heads on the Zoom. I can see yours, Martin, but I can't see the police. Is that okay? Well done. Thank you very much. Can I therefore now confirm that the applicant Sonia Waugh and her representative John Payne are attending in person?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Can I also confirm that Samuel Biggs and Nicola Waddingham from the fire service are attending? That's both you yourselves. Okay. Yes. And also, I think I can confirm it's Gary Clark from the Thames Valley Police, but you are actually on Zoom and not attending in person. Okay. Right, okay. I've just been reminded I need to ask, are you observing or are you actually taking up your allotted speaking rights? Sorry, I think you're on mute again. Sorry, I think you're on mute.
You're on
again.
mute.
Yeah, I am just observing.
Okay, thank you very much. And also, can I confirm that Councillor Martin Coulson will be attending via Zoom and intended to speak?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair.
All other objections submitted in writing will be taken in consideration by the panel when they make their determination on this matter. Okay. I now go on to explain how these meetings are conducted. The council's licensing officer, Riley Timoney, to my left, will introduce the application, after which the calling of parties will take place in the following order. Representations by the applicant, representations by the responsible authorities, in this case, the Fire and Rescue Service of Thames Valley, representations by the ward member, and then summing up by the applicant at the end of the proceedings. Remember, each group, not member, but each group will have 10 minutes in which to make their case. Each individual responsible authority will be treated as an individual group for the purposes of speaking rights, and they have their own 10 minutes. Yeah, okay. The important point to note is that the total time for summing up is to respond to the representations made, and this shall not exceed 10 minutes. And also, it must take into account the Licensing Act's 4 objectives, and that is the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and the prevention of harm for children. Ben Ryan will be timing the 10 minutes, and he will also notify you 1 minute before the 10 minutes is up. Once all representations have been made and the questions asked, I will close the meeting. After this, the members will meet privately to make a decision, and a written decision notice will be issued to interested parties setting out the verdict as soon as possible, but in any event, within 5 working days. Can I also now check that the members on Zoom are hearing all what I've said in the last minute or so? Okay, thank you very much. After this, members will be, sorry, I'm going back on this on my own. Right, okay. I'd now like to take the opportunity to remind all parties present, this is a public meeting. I've actually said it before, but I'm going to say it again, and it's the meeting that will be webcast on YouTube. It's therefore necessity for all to remind you as all attendees that this is a public forum, and I'm going to ask you as participants to bear this in mind in anything you've said or saying during the meeting. I would also like to take the opportunity to remind everyone that questions raised as part of this process may be only to seek clarification on a statement made and not to introduce new business. I hope you too have heard that also on Zoom. Okay, thank you very much. I now move on to asking a declaration of interest. Can I ask members, have they any declaration of interest to quote?
None,
Stephanie
Mr.
Stevenson.
Chairman.
Councillor Owen Jeffrey.
I do not believe it is a improper a declaration of interest of something which is improper, but I do want to put on record that I am a member of the Royal Berkshire Fire Authority, and obviously the RBFA are making a objection to this particular licence. I would
Thank you
seek
very much.
legal advice.
Thank you very much for that information. And also we're bearing in mind, and especially looking around the table, that you are the reserve member and not the member that will be making a decision on the evidence which is supplied to us this morning. Councillor Nigel Foot.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I would like to put on the record that I'm a member of Newbury Street Pastors, so I go out with street pastor patrols on a Saturday evening, so I'm quite familiar with this part of the town. However, I'd like to stress that I don't know the applicant and I don't know any of the named objectors at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on to the next stage of the proceedings, and we've been led to believe that the applicant has indicated that they would like to submit further evidence to the panel. This is after the deadline providing to submit material. Does the applicant wish to apply to introduce this material, please?
Well, Chairman, yes. The situation is that there are representations on two grounds, if I can put it like that. The first is in relation to fire safety, and one of the representations from the fire authority is that a fire risk assessment needs to be carried out. Well, that's fine and proper that a fire risk assessment is carried out, and so one has been done. And that is the first of the two documents that we would like to submit to the council for consideration, the fire risk assessment that has been done to address that representation. Hopefully that then deals with that part of the representation. I can obviously run through the fire risk assessment if you wish me to do so verbally, but I think it's probably better that it's just submitted. Now, that was prepared at the end of what seems an age ago, but last year, 2023, in response to the representation received. That was the quickest it could be done. The second document is in relation to the suggestions that there will be public nuisance issues, and that's a noise management plan. And again, it's something that has been discussed with Environmental Health. Environmental Health, I believe, have a copy of that and had a copy of that for some time, and I understand are no longer pursuing their representation as a result, but it forms a part of the application, and that's why we ask that it is considered by the committee in this particular hearing. Again, I can run through it verbally rather than by giving you a paper copy to explain to you in my submissions what measures will be undertaken to prevent public nuisance. It seems easier and more streamlined to let you have a copy of that document, so you don't need to listen to me for my 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Can I just ask the two attendees on Zoom, did you hear that from the applicant? Thank you very much. Now look round the room and obviously ask the various parties. Firstly, the subcommittee, are you in agreement of looking at this document, these documents?
Yes,
you
Chair.
are?
Yeah.
Okay. Environmental Health? You're not happy? Silent. Are you happy?
We're licensing, but yes, that's fine.
Licensing, sorry, apologies,
Okay,
sorry.
no worries.
Yeah. Are you happy? Okay. Service?
We've already received a copy of the risk assessment, which we've already made comment on separately.
Okay, I'm just asking if you're happy with it being submitted.
Yes.
You are, okay.
Chairman, could I just interject, because
No.
I'm conscious that the fire officer just said that he's had a copy of a fire risk assessment. That is a previous iteration of the risk assessment. It's not the latest one.
If I'd just like to remind you, it's appropriate for us to make sure that all parties present and also on Zoom are happy with it, because in a minute if everyone is happy, I will then obviously adjourn the proceedings for us to actually consider the document.
Indeed so. I just wanted to make sure there was clarity that the risk assessment that was seen by the fire authority is a previous one, and the one that you have now is not one that was circulated until I think yesterday afternoon. And so there may be issues in that revised
Okay, the point,
document which addresses.
Okay, the point taken, and I think the point I will address is to make sure you've got the appropriate updated one. Okay, I've had the nods. Okay, all right. Okay, right, Martin Coulson, and then the police. Are you both happy? Thanks, Martin. Can I just ask, you said you received the most recent document. Has it been studied by yourself?
I've received a document dated the 5th of December. Has there been a further update? Then I have not received that updated risk assessment.
That is useful clarification, and you will be issued with that in the next few minutes when I adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, okay. Because obviously you've now all agreed to consider these documents, I'm going to then formally ask for the proceedings to be adjourned. I suggest, in view of the documents that we need to look at very thoroughly, I'm going to suggest a 15-minute recess. Okay. And we will obviously, as a group, ourselves as the committee, we will adjourn to another meeting room for the 15 minutes. Okay.
And Chair, will we get emailed these documents so that we can have a look as well, please?
Is that Ben, is it being emailed now?
Yes.
It is.
Thank you very much. Great. Appreciated.
Just formally, I will try and address everybody in Christian name terms if I can, because I think it's more appropriate that well, let's say it's easier than for some of the surnames which have been presented in the past, which has been rather embarrassing to actually try and pronounce the names. Okay, well, thanks for the opportunity to consider these documents. So the first thing I need to obviously identify from the various participants, have you been happy of reading the documents, and is there, sorry, are you happy to basically proceed?
Yes, happy to proceed. I've had a brief look through the document. It does still pose some questions for me. There is a area within the document where it says that a supplementary statement has been provided regarding to the classification of linings that we've got here. That attachment's not attached to the FRA, to the fire risk assessment. So I would like to review that document whenever possible.
Okay, initially you said you're happy to proceed, but you also now just identified that something else you really want to consider.
Yeah. Well, if they've provided a supplementary statement to the FRA, then I'd like to read that before making a judgment on the fire risk assessment, to be perfectly honest.
Can I therefore ask the applicant, will you be able to supply that to the fire authority?
Chair, I'm sure that would be entirely possible to do. I don't have a copy myself in front of me, unfortunately, so it would be a case of contacting the person who's completed the assessment. You appreciate that it was done on the 28th of December, so not that long ago, and I think that perhaps in translating or getting this across, those documents have been missed. Now, there is a way, of course, that this could be dealt with and to allow you to proceed with making a decision today. And that is, if you were minded to grant a license, you could make it a condition of that license that that document is provided to the fire authority before licensable activities commence. There is, of course, an obligation under the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order to complete a fire risk assessment and, upon request, to provide those documents to the fire authority. And that seems to be the logical and sensible way forward.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask yourselves, Fire Authority, this document that you're referring to, is it a serious material consideration that the panel should consider? Because it obviously we are concerned.
Yes, I believe it is, yes. This fire risk assessment makes reference to this additional attachment. So this fire risk assessment makes reference to this additional fire risk assessment attachment explaining the fire tests. And I suppose the two bones of contention that we've got here in terms of issues is we've got the classification of linings, as we've stated within our letter of representation, and the occupancy numbers. And from looking through this document, I need to have a look at that to make a decision as to whether I believe that it's been adequately considered.
Okay. I mean, I'm obviously in some a little bit of uncertainty in regarding the proceedings, because you've obviously made it quite clear that you're quite happy with it, with the proceedings to follow on, and for us to obviously consider the evidence which is supplied to us today in both the background and obviously verbal information. But, you've also made it quite clear that really we should be considering it. So I'm going to just ask the legal advisor whether it's appropriate that we should actually consider continuing the proceedings.
Chairman, before you do, I'm sorry, before you do that, could I just draw your attention to one part of the assessment? Sorry, yeah. Could I perhaps ask you to turn your microphone off for a second, because I think it's getting some feedback rather. Chairman, on the risk assessment, you'll see there's a page marked housekeeping. And halfway down that page, there are comments on the hazards that are observed, comments and hazards that are observed. And I think what the officer is trying to get at is that the officer wants some sort of certificate to confirm what is being said by the consultant in this report. The consultant says that at the time of the assessment, it was observed that the furniture and finishes used in the nightclub are of suitable fire resistance characteristics. The current layout and location of the furniture and finishes are kept clear ignition sources of ignition sources in all areas. And then it talks about this additional certificate. So what's being asked for is a copy of the certificate upon which the expert has based his decision. Well, Chairman, we can go on forever and a day with asking for certificates. We can ask for a certificate to show that the certificate is valid and that the lab is actually accredited. We go on and on with this. In terms of what you have before you, I say the evidence is the assessment has been made by a consultant who is an expert in fire safety, and that expert has said on the evidence that he has seen, and I appreciate the fire officer is also an expert in fire safety, but he has seen evidence and his conclusion is that the premises are safe. I hope that helps you a little bit. And as I say, the page is the one marked housekeeping where that dialogue or that monologue is set out.
Okay, thank you for that information. And you know, obviously we. I think the only point really which is appropriate is public safety being jeopardised at all in relationship to not having that available at that time, this particular time.
In my opinion, yes, until we've got categoric classification that the surface spread fire linings achieve the relevant standards and that the occupancy capacity for the building has been adequately considered, which it does not appear to have been within this fire risk assessment here, then I think public safety is put at risk.
Okay, thank you. That's quite interesting bit of advice. I can't take your question at this particular point, Councillor. I think in view of what you've just said, and I think this is important for us as a panel, is that I'm going to have to ask if we can have another adjournment for the panel to just consider these points that have been made, because I think at the end of the day, it's very important for us to make sure that we are considering all relevant points to make sure that we are making the absolute correct decision on this particular application today. So I formally adjourn this proceedings so the panel can just consider these points that have just been made. You're able to provide that document at all?
Well, Chairman, I was going to suggest that to try and make life more simplistic, which is always a good thing, we will try and get in contact with this consultant to see whether we can get these certificates sent over. I did have other submissions I could make to you, but I think the easiest way of doing it is trying to get the darned certificate that will hopefully satisfy the fire officer in terms of his assessment. I will do that now while you're adjourned.
Yeah, okay. Is this something you feel you can actually obtain?
I don't know. We will try and get hold of the consultant now. We'll try and make some telephone calls.
Okay.
Obviously, we don't know his whereabouts, whether he's engaged on another job or whatever, but we will do our very best to get that document available to you this afternoon, or well, indeed this morning.
And of course I have formally adjourned, but out of courtesy, Martin and the police, have you heard the last 5 minutes comments that have been made around the table?
Yes, indeed, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well done. Thanks. Okay. I mean, is it appropriate for us to let's have a short adjournment, or should we be formally adjourning the whole proceedings because you're unable to supply the documents in the next, let's say, 30 minutes or so?
Well, Chairman, I would suggest that you adjourn for 5 minutes so we can make the call. If we are successful in the call, then fantastic, we can then proceed. If we can't get hold of the individual, then I can make further submissions to you. I do feel that you are in a position where you are able to proceed, and I can explain why that is if we come to it. But as I say, to make life simple, let's make the call. Let's see if we can get the document in a short period of time. And then if we reconvene in 5 minutes, then I can let you know where we are.
I think it's a sensible way forward, and I appreciate your efforts, and best of luck. Let's hope so, because I think it will be helpful to all concerned. It's nice to actually be able to proceed and come to a conclusion without to keep on the journey and then trying to satisfy dates for all concerned, because it's not easy to get things in the diary.
So can I just ask a very quick question? I just want to make sure that you're looking for the right document. It's I've received certificates from the applicant before. It's the attachment to the FRA which explains the fire tests conducted. That's what I'm looking for on the bottom line of the housekeeping page 8. I just wanted to, if it's going to be the same certificate, I'm looking for the explanation of how the test's conducted and whether it satisfies that criteria.
That's what I anticipated you were looking for. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure you were.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Has the meeting finished, do you think? Seems we're the only two people left on, Gary, you and me. You're just on mute still.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not very good with this tech, I can assure you. But, yeah, I see it. They've just seemed to have gone away, haven't they? So I've not had anything to say.
They probably forgot that we were on Zoom, but maybe that they've just, permanently adjourned the meeting, but I'm not quite clear. I'll just
because
I'll call Phil Barnett and let you know. I'll just go on mute and I'll just check.
Yeah, I'll be surprised because John Payne looks as if he was going to make a few points if that was the way they wanted to go. So I'll be very surprised if it's already been adjourned.
Okay, well, I'll just phone up anyway to find out what's going on.
Okay, cheers, Martin. I'll hang on.
Are we okay?
Martin, can you hear me?
I can do now, yes. We just lost
Okay.
you and wondered whether the meeting had finished.
Okay. Right. So you're obviously now linked in. We are about to get. We've had some information supplied to us, but
Okay.
I'm the applicant to actually supply that again because it's appropriate for you to hear. But I can't see the police in attendance.
He is still there. Or I can see him on my screen, and I just spoke to him a second ago.
I'm still here, but I seem to have lost the link to the meeting.
Right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Right, so you have now got the link. Okay, I was just saying to the ward member that we have had a explanation from the applicant, but I think it would be appropriate to ask the applicant just to repeat what he said because it's appropriate for you two to hear as well. But basically, at the end of the day, it's more than likely that we will be reconvening this proceedings at a further date. So if I can hand over to you, John, actually, just to repeat what you said only a few moments ago.
Yes, absolutely. I'm conscious those joining on Zoom are not parties to the hearing, but essentially we have not been able to obtain the certificate that is appended to the report. It would be helpful, I think, to have the report in one form with the certificate physically attached. That cannot be done until we think later on this afternoon. That really is a bit too late to deal with things today. There are also some conversations that probably will be helpful to have with the consultant, which may result in a situation the fire authority is then satisfied with the application. So with that in mind, we ask that the matter is adjourned for a period of about a week, but I'm conscious that there may be a date on the 17th so that these matters can be concluded then. I'm hoping that if we can deal with those on the 17th, it will be a fairly short hearing.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that explanation again, John. Did you hear that okay, Martin, and the police?
Yep, that's fine. Thanks, John.
Well, outside the proceedings, we've already been talking about a adjournment date, and the 17th has already been flagged up. So I think the most appropriate thing really is to ask yourselves, firstly, as the applicant, John, and your colleagues, whether the 17th is available in your diaries, and also, of course, the fire authority representatives.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's okay. Martin, as ward member, 17th.
Would that be at the same time, sort of 10 o'clock?
Correct.
Yes, I could do that. Thank you.
And the police?
Yeah, 17th is fine with me.
Okay. Well, I know, John, you mentioned a week, but we've also got to get certain things in the proceedings, and we also, I think, appropriate. It's best for a reconvened subcommittee of a present formation and not a new subcommittee. So we've got to look at that, as well as obviously the administration arrangements centred around. So perhaps I can then formally say that the proceedings are suspended today or adjourned, and we will get the necessary paperwork in the correct order and all the correct notification out to the respective parties at the appropriate time to make sure that the proceedings on the 17th go through
straightforward. Yes.
order.
I'm very grateful for that. I'm also conscious that the ward member has entered into this particular hearing. Now, I've got no idea of what he is going to say or not say. It would be rather helpful in the interest of a fair hearing that we have some sort of summary from him if he's going to be an interested party before that date as well. So if I could ask that a short summary or the bullet points that are being raised, because I'm conscious we have no idea about what is to be said or indeed what rebuttal we might want to give.
I mean, you raised quite let's say, a relevant point, but in the past, it's been, to my knowledge, it's been obviously a verbal, but a very overview perspective from the point of the member knowing the area and knowing the good points and the bad points. So it's a very, very neutral presentation. I can't tell you, because I'm not certain exactly how Martin Coulson would react, but I would imagine he will be looking at the overall concerns of his constituents, as well as the needs of the community and the needs of the customers, which you are obviously considering. So that's all I would say. I'm just going to ask the legal representative if it should be in a written form, or has been in the past.
It hasn't been in the past, you must not.
I was correct. It hasn't been done in the past, but I think just for clarity, I'm more than happy if you're happy for me to go to Martin now and ask whether he wished to actually put a few things down on paper before the proceedings.
Yes, I'm very happy to do that, and for those to be circulated to the applicant and everybody else on the panel.
I'm extremely grateful to the council.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, presumably you request, sorry, I'm looking around the table, you would like the ward members' comments available at the time when the papers are actually published as
Yes.
as a document.
The
Yeah.
only reason I ask is just so there can be a fair hearing, so that if there are points that are raised, then we can obviously research those. And if there is evidence we want to put in rebuttal, then we can do so. Or likewise, if there are positive things in support, which I hope there would be, that we can again embellish on those positive points.
We'll make sure it's done appropriately, so you can consider it. Okay. It's just a point of clarification. Technically, obviously, I haven't formally closed the proceedings, and you are. Is it just for clarification on the adjourned date? About to close the proceedings.
I would like to ask something first.
This relates to the adjourned date.
No.
Because technically, of course, you aren't part of the committee, but that's why I was saying, was it a point of information or clarification?
It's a point for clarification. Yes, please.
I've been advised technically I cannot allow you to ask the question at this point. I'm sorry, Owen. Now, I'm formally going to close the proceedings today, and I can thank you all for attending. And obviously, one has to apologise for a lot of time taken by you all in attending. But hopefully, we will consider the whole of the application in its entirety on the 17th, and we've come to an outcome which is satisfactory for all concerned. So thanks again for attending.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.